Transmitting from South Central Texas since 2007, this is Anomaly with Jen and Angela, talking about your favorite sci-fi fantasy topics. We're the halfway point between Muggle and Geek.
Anomaly. Something that deviates from what is standard, normal, or expected. An oddity. Peculiarity. Irregularity. Inconsistency. Incongruity. A rarity.
This is part one of a two-part review series on Brandon Sanderson's new sci-fi novel, Skyward. After you've listened to this spoiler-free review, be sure to return next week for an in-depth discussion that will spoil the heck out of everything. Then write and call in and let us know what you thought of the book. Skyward is about 17-year-old Spencer Nightshade, who desperately wants to join the pilots who defend the last remnant of humanity on the planet Detritus. Her people crash-landed on the barren world after being chased across the galaxy by the Krell, an alien species they know virtually nothing about, who's been relentlessly attacking their colony from air for the past 80 years. The survival of humanity rests squarely on the shoulders of the young pilots who take to the skies to defend everyone from total annihilation. Spencer wants nothing more than to become the best of the best, and to prove her father, a pilot who fled the epic Battle of Alta, was not the coward that Command says he was. The daughter of a coward is not well respected on Detritus, and is not afforded the same rights or privileges as first citizens, or anyone else for that matter. The ostracized Spencer must fight to survive on her world, fight to enter cadet training, fight to remain there, fight to save her family, her friends, her world, and her father's reputation. Spencer is very good at fighting. According to her grand-gran, who tells the best stories, Spencer is the descendant of Genghis Khan, Beowulf, Bodikia, Sun Tzu, and all of the warriors of the old Earth stories. The DDF and Admiral Ironsides have no intention of allowing Spencer to reach the stars, but a dramatic revelation about the circumstances surrounding her father's actions may become the very thing the colony needs to win the war against the Krell once and for all. Sanderson's research on flight and physics adds believability to the imagery he weaves in the reader's mind. His dogfights are so well written, I was able to visualize everything from the expressions on her face as she fights G-forces to the banking, climbing, diving, and rolls she performs while dogfighting. His character and plot development are masterful and had me binge listening to the book not once, but twice. Read this book or listen to the audiobook narrated by Susie Jackson. Sanderson's writings bring Spencer to life, but Susie's narration makes her three-dimensional. Hello and welcome to the Anomaly Podcast. I'm Jen. I love classy fashion as much as cool gadgets, tech, and recording gear. And I am an anomaly.
Hi, I'm Rico from Treks in Sci-Fi, and I know organic chemistry as well as some Klingon, and I am an anomaly.
Hi, I'm Rick. I'm a software engineer who loves to blend his love for technical gadgets and sci-fi with the arts, music, and musical theater, and I am an anomaly.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're all on. Angela and I met Rico, in person, only a few years ago. But we had been friends forever on the Treks in Sci-Fi forum, and that's how we met Rick Pete as well. We've been buddies for a very long time, and we met Rick the other day in Austin when he came to go jogging with us. Or no, he didn't go jogging with us. What am I saying? He went to go marathoning. And I was like,
I like this idea, though, better of you guys jogging together.
Yeah, like right? While we're visiting.
The nerd jog fest.
Oh, are you kidding? I am so anti-running.
You do the gym running kind of thing, right? Running in place, I call it.
No.
Or do you
running.
not use the running stuff there? Do you just use other things?
I hike and I do treadmill, turn it all the way up, incline all the way up, and I'll mountain climb for a while to get my heart rate up.
So not just flat out, just jogging, running. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, that's for emergencies only. That's why God invented adrenaline.
That's why. That's only for when bad stuff.
I told Rick I would cover his retreat from the zombie apocalypse with my shotgun. And he can run, and I'll just take out as many for him as possible.
That's right. Well, that's why I train. Yeah, I gotta be faster than all the other people, so they get eaten and I don't.
Yeah, this is. I don't think the three of us have ever done a show like this together.
We've been on shows together as a giant group on your podcast, Rico. But it's fun to actually do one with just you guys. I'm hoping if this works well and you had fun, we can do it again with other books, maybe. What did you guys think of this book?
I really like this book a lot. It has a very nice sort of, feel to it. You had suggested maybe we should read it, and I think I was the last of the three of us because I think I was in the middle of a book or another thing or something. But anyway, and then I read the basic idea of it. It's sort of set in the future, and it's got a lot of like ship type stuff going on and things like that. Basically it was like, yeah, that's my kind of book. And it didn't disappoint on that. One of the things about his books, I feel like, and we could talk about this more in the spoiler part, but he has great characters and they're really well fleshed out. They're easy to sort of identify with. That was probably one of the things I like the most about this. If you like characters that are interesting and maybe both a little bit messed up, but also, have a good heart kind of a thing, this is certainly in this book. But it's basically about, people out there in the galaxy trying to survive. And I can't say too much, but I loved it. I really did. And I'm excited the fact that it looks like there's going to be more.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed it very much. The main character is great. And I listened or I read it via audio. So the voice person for the book was really good. So, yeah, highly recommended. Highly recommend the audiobook. Really good book.
What about you, Rick?
I love the book. I hadn't really read anything by Sanderson before this book, but I saw it on Audible. I saw it there and I thought, that might be an interesting book. Then I saw your post on Anomaly about having read the book and how great it was. So I thought, well, if Jen thought it was good and I was already sort of interested in it, I got to go read it. So I actually had just finished a book, so I just picked it up right away. I love science fiction stories, but the really great stories, as Rico was saying, really dig deep into character development. So they allow all the techie goodness stuff to augment the plot line rather than to define the plot line. I got pulled into caring about Spencer, the main character, and her personal drive from the very beginning of the book. I mean, the first couple of chapters, I was already all in. And then we follow her journey. She becomes a pilot. She wants to protect her people. I just felt a bond with her, maybe because I'm a dad and maybe because being a person of color, I kind of felt like I related to her struggle to succeed despite the odds. So that just made it more personal for me. So I was fully invested. I thought the action scenes were fantastic. Comparing this to The Last Starfighter and Top Gun, I think is pretty apropos from the action perspective. And with her sense of struggle, it brings in that whole concept of defiance from the Hunger Games, which I also really enjoyed. So I give the book a solid 4 stars. I would really recommend it, particularly for, middle and high schoolers, as a story of determination, courage, perseverance, and a little bit of identity. Because especially with middle schoolers, they deal with that whole issue of identity. So I really enjoyed the book.
I've been a Brandon Sanderson fan for a long time. I first got into his writing whenever he picked up the last 3 books of The Wheel of Time, which I had been loving. Brandon Sanderson was a huge Robert Jordan fan. He's only a year younger than me, Sanderson is. So he had been reading that book series since he was in high school, and it inspired him to become a writer, and he just picked that up, finished it phenomenally. The last 3 books are some of the best writing in the whole series. And I do love Jordan, but I think Sanderson really put the icing on the cake. Then I started reading his Stormlight archive, which is wonderful. If you guys haven't read that, I highly suggest it. It's such a weird world full of like giant crustaceans and superpowers. And it's just an interesting combination of all the things that I love about fantasy. Like I said, I follow his blog and I saw him writing about how he was going to enter the sci-fi genre with this book. And I was like, oh, dude, I have to read this because if he's done these great books, I know I'm going to love his science fiction book. And I did. The main character, you really identify with her. But it wasn't just her, the tertiary characters too. I loved them all. And I felt myself really, biting my nails for them at times. And especially Kimmelin and Hurl, two characters in this book that I love the most. I really felt like I was in her squadron flying next to her because I could just visualize everything he said. And sometimes I have trouble with that. I felt like I was watching or playing a game or, like I said, in a cockpit next to her. You will love it. I give it 4 stars.
Listening to the audiobook, and I think I told you, Jen, that when I read it when I listened to the second time, I was actually doing a half marathon race. Mm-hmm. And I listened to the last, 3 hours of it while I was running. And it was fabulous because my whole mind was focused in the story and the visuals and everything else, not focused on what my body was feeling at the moment. But at the end of that book, they talk about the editorial process a little bit and how many people, pilots and scientists that he had doing book previews to go through all of that action to make sure that the dogfighting was as accurately portrayed as possible. So, I give a lot of props to him for making sure that what they talked about made sense, from a physics perspective, when G-forces happen, when they don't, and, how would something like anti-grav things, how would they really work? I thought it was just very well put together and very consistent across all of those activities. It wasn't like one dog, even in the other ship that they were repairing, that ship's dynamics worked differently.
Yeah.
And so even in the writing with dogfighting with that particular ship, the physics still made sense. I was very impressed with that.
I listened all the way through also and heard all of his thank yous, and he specifically thanked pilots and several scientists on their explanation of physics and flight, and they called him out when he was doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And that's really, I love that about him. He's such a world builder, and he even has a set of rules for magic. It's called Sanderson's Rules of Magic. I feel like he's using the same approach with his science fiction. When you're writing science fiction, the science is like the magic in a fantasy story. It has to make sense. It has to have rules. I love that he did that research or had people with that background read his book to help him get it right, because it really adds to the quality of the story.
When you read a story like that and then they get the physics wrong, it's like watching a play. When the actors break the fourth wall and they're interacting with the audience, it breaks you out of the story, right? Because then your mind starts thinking about the physics. Wait, that's not right. Wouldn't it only be that? And now you're not thinking about the book. You've pulled out of the book, you put the book on hold, and now you're, in real time thinking about whether this makes sense or not. I never had that sense in this book. I was able to stay immersed.
That's exactly the way I felt. And the other thing I was going to say, even the names that he chose for his characters, they fit the characters perfectly. Like I said, I read a lot of Star Wars books, and I love Star Wars, and I love the new novels, many of them. But sometimes even the names will take you out of a story. If they use something that sounds too modern, or there was one character one time whose last name was Farty. I'm not kidding. And the whole time I was listening to the audiobook, the Farties were a part of that book, and it just ruined it for me. And Joe has a little like a key that he pushes on his keyboard sometimes, where it's a clip of the narrator saying that word.
Yeah,
even the farties.
Yeah, it's what's her name who did those, right? The audio part of those.
What's her name who played Ahsoka Tano? No, I can't think of her name.
Yeah, I'm gonna look while you're.
Yeah, do, because that's a horrible thing. I can't remember her name right now. So yeah, that's pretty much. Unless Rico has anything to add.
No, we're still spoiler free stuff, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to say too much. No, is very, very good. Probably just as good or even better than I expected from him. He's, like I said, I haven't had any books that I've read of his that I haven't really liked a lot. Mm-hmm. And I kind of already said it, and we've already said it, but at the end of this book, you feel like, oh, come on, I want more. So
yeah.
And that's a good thing, right? I've had a few books. Mm-hmm. Everybody's had books that you read and go, oh, thank God that's over a little
yes.
bit. Like I had one not too long ago, a few months ago, that was kind of like that. I'm like, it wasn't terrible, but it was like, okay, all right, I get it. And it just went on and on and on. But this book, though, no, I mean, not to, again, I'm not spoiling anything, but it certainly, while I think it's a self-contained thing, it certainly leaves you wanting a lot more. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, the pacing's really good in his books.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like it was slow at all. And yeah, I wanted more also. And that's one of the things that kind of stinks about being a fan who jumps on a book right away, is that if it's a great book, you have to wait years until the next one comes out. I usually come to an author, when he's already completed or she's already completed her series, and then I just get to gobble them up one right after the other. But now I have to wait.
I don't mind the wait too much. It feels kind of, I've always thought that, I know what you mean though, it can sort of be a little hard, but I skip around on books, even ones that have whole series already put out. But I always feel, especially this book has a very movie-like feel to it. I was going to say that later. Yeah. The wait feels like, I'm just kind of waiting for the next movie. Like I'm kind of the usual, like we're doing with Star Wars and things like that, And it's supposed to come out, maybe getting a little ahead, but is it, I think late this year, October is what I'm hearing.
Oh, is it? Okay, good.
Yeah. He says the next one is finished, basically awaiting revisions. It's currently set to be released in October of 2019. So
awesome.
Not too long, roughly about a year or so between the books, give or take. Yeah.
That's really bad. Amazing, because sometimes it takes a while for him to circle back.
He's no George R.R. Martin. It's only been 15 years. Hang on, kids.
Right. An interesting thing that may be encouraging him to write these faster is that a company bought the rights to produce his books as movies, and they're going to be doing the Stormlight archives, which I don't know when that's going to happen, but I read that recently on Wikipedia. You know how Wikipedia is. Sometimes they get a little ahead of themselves, or there's inaccurate information. So
things get announced and they never happen, or things change.
Exactly. But that could be a reason why he is producing them at a faster pace.
Oh, it's Ashley Eckstein.
Yes, thank you, Ashley Eckstein.
The Farties.
Right. Yeah, even the Farties were, whatever.
When you guys did that show, I was like, it didn't really bother me, actually.
The Farties thing? Oh,
not
my
really.
gosh.
I didn't. I like maybe the first time or second time she said it, but it really, I don't know. It
didn't hit you like it did us. We wrote about it.
I don't know. It didn't. But of all the words and sounds to put together, you probably could have done better than
that. The embarrassing thing, and it's a lesson for me, is that the author of that Farties book listened to our podcast. They listened to our podcast episode on it, and I felt so horrible for being so brutally honest about her writing.
You should be, though. I mean, you should. I don't think you guys were especially mean or hard about it.
Oh, no, we weren't,
really.
But still, I was a little embarrassed.
Well, it's nice that they listen, and
One more thing about Sanderson, if you are an aspiring writer or someone who writes on the side, you might want to check out his podcast. It's called Writing Excuses. And I used to listen to that hardcore when we were doing our RPG on your forum, Rico. The tagline of his show is 15 minutes because you don't have the time and we're not that smart. He has some great writing prompts and tips on creating worlds and all kinds of stuff. It's him and 3 of his friends who are writers themselves. So go check that out. And you can find it at, I think, writingexcuses.com, but it may be writingexcusespodcast.com. Just Google it. And I'll put it in the show notes too for this episode.
I was looking at Brandon's Twitter. Back in October, he finished and turned in the sequel for Skyward.
I think that's what...
That's what I was just talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he finished it in October, or he'll be releasing it in October of this year?
It doesn't say when he's going to be releasing it. He said he finished it last October.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is a tweet from October of 2018. So he says, I just finished and turned in the sequel. So I don't know when it's going to be released, but he's done with it because he says starting this year in January, he's starting to write Stormlight 4.
Good.
So he's a busy man.
Yeah, he is. Great. I'm excited. Support Anomaly monthly, and we'll send you a thank you gift. We love Anomaly, but we can use a little help keeping this show coming to you every week. If you can donate $5, $10, or more a month, we'll send you the full version of the original Anomaly theme song, as well as Television Junkie, which we play in the TV segment.
I'm a television junkie, and the real world stumps me. I got a lot of problems. Why don't somebody solve them? Television junkie, I don't like what I see. I'm a television junkie.
And Dark Horse, which we play in the outro. Angela's husband, you know, the guy that reads the Anomaly intro, he wrote that stuff, and he plays bass in the tracks. His band, The Illuminati, recorded it back in the early 2000s when we were students at Southwest Texas State University. That's authentic Texas punk, y'all, and it's yours to jam to whenever you want when you become a sponsor of Anomaly. We'll also thank you on the show and add your name to a supporters page on the website. Just go to anomalypodcast.com and click on Donate to select your way to give. Thanks so much for your help. We love you people. Special thanks to Rick P., Rick M., Amber, and Stephanie for their continued support of the show. That's it for this week. Special thanks to Gerald and Cole for their emails. We love hearing from you guys. If you want to drop us a line just to say hello, please do. Again, you can write to us at girlygeeks@gmail.com. That's girlygeeks with a Z @gmail.com, or visit our website and click on Contact over at anomalypodcast.com. That's ANOMALY podcast.com. You can also send us a voice memo or call our voicemail line at 432-363-4742. When Angela gets back in a couple of weeks, we'll read those emails on the air and respond. Thanks again, guys. Subscribe to Anomaly and never miss an episode. Go over to anomalypodcast.com and click on subscribe at the top of the page and find all the places we're available. We'll be back next week with part 2, which will be super spoilery, all about Brandon Sanderson's new sci-fi novel, Skyward. Be sure to get that book or audiobook and listen so that you can enjoy the podcast. Don't forget to send in your comments about your favorite women of Marvel. Thanks again. I'll be back soon with Angela. I'm Jen. You've been listening to the Anomaly Podcast, the halfway point between Muggle and Geek. If you like this episode about Brandon Sanderson's book, Skyward, you may also like our old episode from 2016, an intro to The Wheel of Time and prequel, New Spring. And from the same year, The Wheel of Time, Eye of the World, Look Back and Review. I'll provide a link in the show notes for this installment on Skyward over at anomalypodcast.com. That's ANOMALY podcast.com. You're still listening? You are hardcore. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head over to anomalypodcast.com and click subscribe at the top of the homepage. That's ANOMALY podcast.com. You'll find all of our episodes on our website, including the ones we've archived. We'd love to learn more about you. Tell us how you found us and what part of the world you're listening in. Email a note or send a voice memo recorded on your smart device to girlygeeks@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can always call our voicemail line at 432-363-4742. It may take us a day or two to get back to you, but we never ignore email. Join our Facebook public group. It's full of friendly anomalies just like you. And Angela and I are usually there posting and commenting as well. Google Anomaly Podcast Public Group, and boom, you have a link. If you're looking for podcasts like Anomaly, try Treks in Sci-Fi with our friend Rico Dosti. He encouraged us over a decade ago to start our own show, and we've been pals ever since. Angela and I are also guests from time to time on Treks in Sci-Fi. Another show you might want to check out is Waffle On with our friends Meds and Kel. They cover all sorts of movies and TV shows from the US and UK. Then there's the Star Wars Stacks that I host with my friends Chris and Joe. We cover Star Wars books, movies, games, and now we're thinking about doing a role-playing game series. Our characters are going to be scoundrels and bounty hunters. Joe also has a show called The Upper Memory Block. If you love DOS and pre-Windows XP gaming, Joe's show is for you. You can Google all these shows or find them on Apple Podcasts. You're still here? You are an overachiever, my friend. Are you Ravenclaw? Virtual fist bump. Oh my gosh, it stopped recording. Oh, it's still recording. You've reached the bonus round, my friend, and you deserve some outtakes. Enjoy.
Fun outtakes. Is Chris Clemente on here?
No.
I mean,
Well, usually Angela, she's the fun outtake person on this show.
okay.
She always has something hilarious that didn't quite make it into the show that I try to stick at the end. But I never tell people to look for it. And I can tell who listens all the way through because they'll email me and say, oh my gosh, I listened to the end and that was hilarious or whatever. And it's always Angela, of course. It's not me. She is the funny person.
Well, you have to have a straight, you have to have the the straight-laced, side of the two-sided,
The funny man and the straight
Yeah,
man.
you can't both
Yeah.
be the jokester.
Someone has to bring us down.
Exactly.
Somebody's got to be the Clark Kent versus the Superman, right?
Right.
It's really easy reading, and I don't mean that as in like it's like see cat jump, and I don't get a Dr. Seuss book or whatever. Although some Dr. Seuss books are kind of hard to read, but
That's right. Well, that's why I train.
Yeah,
Because
that's why you train.
I have to be
you're
running
ready for
faster
the
than at
zombie
least one.
apocalypse. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to be faster than all the other people, so they get eaten and I don't.
Well, I'm impressed by you covering all these states with all your runs, Rick, because that's a pretty cool thing, I think, and it's a good way to see different places, and you've got a lot of the country covered already.
Yeah, I got half the states done. It is nice. It's a nice way to see the country because you get a couple hours, you get to run 13 miles through Austin, or Arizona, or it's been really. It's great from a health perspective, but it is kind of a good way to force me to go and visit this country. How many people live here their whole lives and maybe see 4 or 5 states.
Yep, it's a hard thing going outside your door. You never know where the road may take you.
You might end up with an anomaly.
Yeah.